Well, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Ignite podcast. Today I've been joined by Mark Billsborough. Mate, welcome to the call.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Easy, mate. So maybe I'll hand over to you for a couple of minutes, mate. Maybe just a bit about your journey, what you've been up to over the last couple of years.
Yeah, look, do you want to start from right back when I was
yeah, school? Mate, go for it. Yeah, I'm super curious about your journey. Like I find that's always, the most interesting bit.
Yeah, okay. So look, I'm a bush kid. I grew up in Gundawindi, which is about 4 hours west on the border of Queensland and New South Wales, the good side though, the Queensland side. So,
right.
So, and grew up there. My dad was a fitter and turner. Mum worked as a bookkeeper for dad and some others. And look, it was a good life. It was a small town, about 4,500 people, played rugby league, golf, cricket. And sport was really my life as a child. And then in high school, I had the opportunity to go to a boarding school in Toowoomba, and went there for 5 years. And then after that to USQ in Toowoomba and got half my degree. And my parents pretty much said, we can't afford to send you to uni anymore. You got to go out and get a job, and I was really lucky, and that was in 1993. So you can imagine the tail end of a recession, and it was pretty tough. The unemployment rate was quite high, and I was really lucky to get a job here in Brisbane with a company called PMM, which has transformed a few times over the years to RPS. And I went there with half a degree, and so I was there for 12 years, and I guess over that 12 years, I finished off my degree and then went on to get my cadastral endorsement. And that was a really good time. I learned from a lot of people, high quality surveyors in that business. Greg Purcell, Andrew Quidland, Andrew Thurston. There's some other names there, Andrew Garrett. So yeah, there's some really high quality guys there that I work with and had the opportunity. I guess it just got to a point, where I wanted to move on and try something different. So, and different it was. I went from property development to working on a railway project with Thies, and that was completely different. That was well outside my experience and comfort zone, and that was a great project. I really tested myself and what I knew, it was a really good project to be involved in. And that project was coming to an end, and then I had just a chance meeting with Craig Wood, one of our directors. He was doing some work next to the railway project that I was working on, and then I just said, this project's coming to an end. Do you guys have any work? And that's where it sort of rolled into me ending up at Bennett and Bennett.
Yep.
So it was a real sliding doors moment, I guess. It was just a fantastic. I knew of Bennett and Bennett, in the industry and how good they were and the name that they had. So come in for a few interviews and ended up getting the role as a senior surveyor. So yeah, and that was really good, those first couple of years. And then I guess that was around the time when there was a big boom in gas and infrastructure. And I took on the role as the mining and infrastructure project manager and trying to source projects that were really booming at that time. And that led us up to Dugald River, a mine up in Cloncurry, and some other gas works out at Wallumbilla. And it was really tough time. I guess we were expanding very quickly and trying to staff and implementing systems. It was tough. But anyway, we got through it, and it was around about, I guess, 2014. Construction, oil and gas was starting to come off the ball, and Dugald River was ending, and so I guess there was opportunity for me to do something else, and that's when I guess the opportunity for the operations manager role for the whole business come up, and also the HR side of the business. So I looked after operations and HR.
Yeah, right.
And that was, I never
Would have been different.
I never had a goal to be the HR manager. That was never it. But I guess there was just a need at that time, and I was available, so I took it on. And let me tell you, it's probably the hardest role I've ever done in my life. And
yep.
And sort of goes on the back of what you what you've been coaching us. The different personality types and understanding that, and how to approach different people. It took a lot of patience and a lot of understanding, and I had to upskill pretty quickly. That's for sure. So,
baptism of fire, eh?
It was. Yeah. And then after that, it's the managing director at that time. So that was Greg Short, and he'd announced that he was going to be stepping down, and then. I guess it come to a vote on. I put myself forward for the managing director role, and I was lucky enough to be voted in by my peers. And here we are today.
Yeah, congrats, well done, mate.
Yeah, so this is that was four or 5 years ago. So we've and then from that time we've done a lot, we've grown a lot, and we've still got some more growth to come. So
yeah, good, mate.
It's been an interesting 30 years, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm keen to kind of dive into a lot about your journey in terms of, what you sort of learned through, I guess, those different phases. Like I remember, some of the consultancies I was part of in the PMM, Connix, RPS days, did a lot with the likes of Jim McNulty and those kind of people. So, I remember they grew rapidly, which was pretty crazy. And so I guess, mate, I'm curious about, focusing in on your time at Bennett and Bennett, but really, your journey from HR operations through to MD. Like, what have been some of your biggest learnings?
Look, the need for a plan, and understanding that at this level, my time frame is a year. If I try to implement something, then it's probably going to take a year to really come to fruition. And that might be a new time sheeting system or something like that. You've got to plan it, implement it, train. As simple as that, or a new acquisition. It's a year time frame that I'm constantly working to, which is quite frustrating at times when you're a surveyor or you're on the tools. It's a day. You know what you're going to do from day to day. You deliver. You go out and do some work, deliver it. And that's short time frame. It's getting your head around and getting used to those longer time frames. It definitely does take a different mindset. That's for sure. And the need to continually network across the business, I think, is important. Continually reach out, talk to people.
Why is that important for you? Sorry.
Look, that's important just to make sure that I understand how. Maybe some of the different challenges people are having. We've got four offices, fixed offices, and then one office, major projects. And there's projects all over Queensland. We've got guys at Arcadia Valley, up near Claremont, Gatton, Warwick. It's constantly reaching out and just making sure that that there's not things happening that we're not aware of. So
yep.
So that's I guess that's the main things that I've really sort of had to work on, and evolve into. So
yeah, good. I mean, I'm curious to dive into, and I've just come fresh from a training with everyone in one of my group coaching programs, and we're talking about the different type of mindset, and so the difference between like the training I was running was all about the technical thinking versus strategic thinking, and sort of the difference between the both. Like technical is obviously very linear, very much once you've got the parameters defined, it's quite easy to then put the train on the train tracks and you can just go down a path. And then there's obviously strategic thinking and creative thinking, and they are very different. Like if you think that you can move from a project meeting where you're thinking linearly to then going into a strategic meeting, you've got to make a conscious shift into a different mindset to get the most from that particular discussion or that brainstorming session. How have you gone about that sort of shift for yourself? Like it sounds like that was something that you had to get used to. What was the process for you?
Look, that is tough, and I guess no one person, you know, has all the skills to be an excellent technical thinker and then an excellent strategic thinker. You have to work on it. That's what I have noticed. And I come from a very technical, you know, for about 20 years or 15, 20 years working in that technical side where I got licensed and, you know, was working to very rigid guidelines and directions. And look, it does, I've had to really focus in on that, and, you know, include people that have those skills. That's the key, I think, is accepting that, you know, you can't be perfect at everything, but to surround yourself by people that can definitely bring the best out of you and you know, and help, you know, and help come up with a plan. So strategic planning is a great one. You know, it's something I enjoy. You know, am I the best? I don't think so, but I've got plenty of people here that you know, can input. You know, that I ask for input, and you know, come up with a pretty good plan. You know, for the next 5 years. So yeah, it's I guess accepting that you know, you just can't be perfect at everything, but surround yourself with people, you know, that are.
And was that, again, a conscious move for you, or did you sort of put your head up at one point and go, geez, I've surrounded myself with really an amazing bunch of people that I can lean on? Or did you find that you, I guess, what was the transition like for you into the MD role, moving from that kind of, you know, being charged of operations and HR and that kind of thing, into a role where I assume you have to really leverage the strengths of the people around you? How did you manage that transition?
Yeah, look, that's a good question. I think coming from bigger companies like PMM, we'd started to sort of go on that journey. So back in, I remember 2006, I did my first Myers-Briggs and learned about that and learned about the different personalities. So you know, I was aware of the 16 different personalities and how different people, you know, excel in different areas. So, you know, I guess, you know, and then being part of strategic planning there, and then going from there to FEAST, which was, you know, next level on top of that in terms of planning. I had some skills around that.
Yep.
And so, you know, it was a learning process. So it's not like, yeah. So I guess by the time I got the Bennett, I had a pretty good understanding of how things evolve. You know, a strategic plan evolves. So yeah. Look, it's again, it's been a, you know, a work in progress. That's for sure. You know, turning a switch one day and saying, you know, it's, you know, I'm gonna start thinking strategically. You know, that's I don't think that's how it works. It didn't work for me that way, that's for sure.
No, mate. And I think it's nice and refreshing to hear you sort of come from that viewpoint, which is, you know, these skills are new, they can be learned. Because I find not everyone, and I won't put everyone into a box, but I find, like, particularly in our industry, when people are moving from quite a technical role where they have built up a very strong, solid skill set, and they know their technical expertise quite well, inside and out, and they can go to a client meeting or a, you know, local state government meeting and hold their own technically, and then they're given the opportunity to move into a leadership role, and it's a totally different skill set. And I do find that sometimes people get stuck in I've come from a technical role and I pretty much knew everything about that role, and I've moved into a leadership role where, if I'm being honest, like, I'm pretty much out of my depth. I'm quite uncomfortable here, but I don't want to let people know that I'm uncomfortable, and I don't want to ask for help. And so I find that transition, sometimes the ego comes up and goes, I don't let people know that, you know, you don't know what you're doing and stuff. And there's a period at which they go through where they have to learn, sometimes the hard way, that there are people around them that they need to leverage their time and ask for help and learn new skills.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the time when the ego comes through, and you know, I'll put my hand up and say, yeah, it's affected me in the past. I'm definitely not immune to it. I don't think anyone is, but yeah, I think it's being authentic, being honest. That you know, working as a group, you'll achieve much more than you know, an individual. And if you're a sole practice owner, you know, reaching out to someone like yourself or getting external help to help you through that journey, you know, there's a lot of value in that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, I'm curious about, so your journey as the MD, obviously you've learned some stuff. Things have probably gone well. Things probably haven't gone so well. Like, what would you say in terms of your sort of personality traits and how you approach the role? Do you think have really served you over the last 4 or 5 years?
I think by nature I am a caring type person. I do like to touch base and talk to people. I think because I was the HR manager, I did have a good understanding of all the personnel in the company and in the different regions. So I already had a pretty good relationship with everyone before I'd stepped up into the MD role. So yeah, look, I think just being approachable, affable, and just trying to meet everyone. I think that's, because we're located in different regions, it's not always easy.
Yep.
I think making the effort to know people, know their names. We've got 130 people now, and I'd be pretty confident that I know most people's names. So yeah, I think that's served me well. Is being that sort of personality. That's for sure.
Yeah, nice. And taking the convo one step further, like, what are you still working on? Like, what's something that you've recognized in yourself that you're like, that's not going so well, I need to kind of work on that or strengthen that?
Yeah, I guess when I'm in the trenches working on something, I probably don't communicate all the time about what I'm working on or the stage that I'm at. And I guess understanding that there's stakeholders in the company, be it equity partners or different managers, who probably need to understand that information a bit more readily, frequently. So yeah, look, I think that's something that I've really noticed about myself over the last year, at least. One of them. And that is just the constant communication of milestones or projects that I'm working on, just so people understand, what's happening, what's planned for the future, so they can have their input. That's one thing I noticed. Yeah.
Mate, thanks. Hey.
I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I think that's, again, I think a lot of people, listening can probably relate to that in terms of when you get into the trenches and you need to get that stuff done. Again, it's that sort of technician thinking versus strategic thinking. You just want to get from A to B in the quickest time possible, and you tend to forget the EQ piece, the communication with the team, the communication with the clients. And I often find with my coaching clients, that's one of the things that makes them come unstuck more than anything else is, not talking and connecting and communicating more than they currently are, because they just, they're in delivery mode and they've forgotten to talk about the fact that they're in delivery mode and they've got, things coming up.
That's right. Yeah, it's easy to slip back into that, but yeah, that's always a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Mate, thank you for being honest.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about culture. So is there any sort of, obviously you'd sit around the board table and talk about strategic planning and where you're taking the business and that sort of thing. Does culture sort of feature in those discussions? And, how do you feel like the culture is currently, and where are you taking things from a culture, staff retention, staff happiness point of view?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it was about 5 or 6 years ago, we had some very generic values, mission statement, that type of thing. It was all, we want to be the best at everything, and staff.
Take over the world.
It was very generic, and it was written, with a good, a good intent, but it probably just didn't drill down into exactly what we wanted to see. So I read a book called Legacy by, I think it was John Kerr, which talks about the All Blacks and how they rose after, I think it was the 2003 World Cup, how they sort of reached bottom and then started this trajectory, and it was fantastic. And it was all about culture. It was all about values. And then I put it to the partnership group to read the book, and they all did. And then we sat around in a workshop and come up with our own values, and that's how we got the 5 values that we got to today.
Mm-hmm.
And look, that that is then intertwined into everything from our interview process that we do with new candidates all the way through to how we our peer reviews with our staff, peer reviews with how the partners peer review each other, and that is the basis, the bedrock of how we want to operate is around those 5 values. So. And then each year we have values awards at our Christmas party with those who have shown, particular strength in one of the values that we have. They're awarded, given an award at the Christmas party, and celebrated in front of the whole company. So look, it's I think having that is important. Having that purpose, the values, so that you can communicate pretty easily to your whole workforce, and living it too. It's important that the leaders are living it, and it's just not words. You have to be seen as being a leader. In one of our values, and being authentic. So yeah, that's important.
How do you, just sorry to interrupt, how do you go about the conscious process of living the values? Like, is there, do you do it at a director and sort of senior executive level? Do you sort of remind each other, hey, you're not quite acting in alignment with our values? Like, is there a bit of a accountability piece at that sort of senior exec level?
Yeah, there is, absolutely. Well, first of all, the values are put up everywhere around the office. So,
like it.
Room you go to, they're there. And like I said, the peer reviews each year, we the equity partners measure each other, on the values, and that is the opportunity to say, hey, I'm not happy with the leadership that you've shown over the last year, and here's why. And I think you should pull your socks up. And it's very confronting at times, and but it's for the better, the purpose of building a good culture in a company is, you need that honesty, that authenticity, and it's and it has worked. I'm happy to say that the leadership team has really shown that. So,
mate, that's so good, because it does, it starts at the top in terms of if there's a disconnect or an inauthenticity around values on a wall versus actions of the leadership team, well, that starts to sort of filter through pretty negatively, pretty quickly through the ranks, and that doesn't go well.
Yeah, and then I guess the culture following on from that is about living those values. And I've been in workplaces where you can lose a culture pretty quick. It can take a long time. We've got a few bad apples in there, and they can drag the culture down pretty quick, and it takes a long time to get back. And we're conscious about that. Any situations that we think we need to address, we try and get onto it. So
yeah, good, mate. That's awesome. Client relationships. Like, I'm curious about. Actually, I wouldn't mind having a discussion without, revealing too many company secrets in terms of your growth plans and that sort of thing. Is it a sort of a mixture of, more work from existing clients plus new work from new clients? Plans for acquisitions of smaller businesses and that sort of thing. What's on the radar for the next 5 years?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We've last year was about us coming up with our strategic plan, and we spent a lot of time, trying to understand that. How far do we want to grow? Do we want to grow, in terms of regions? What sort of numbers do we want to get to? Our capabilities, and we come up with a pretty good plan, which is a combination of growth in numbers and also capabilities. And I'm happy to say that we're on a trajectory to reach that. So yeah, there has been one M&A, and there's probably a couple more to come. Hopefully over the next few months we can announce something around that space.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting, and also some new capabilities that we're working on as well. So you'll see it on our socials, no doubt, about what's going on. But but yeah, that is. And look, we've got some key clients that we work with. Multiplex is a great example, where we're with them at Queen's Wharf, and then working with them at the domestic barracks upgrade. Sorry. you know, they're the sort of clients that we want to aim for, is those larger, with a good reputation, aligned with how we want to work.
Yep.
So yeah, look, unfortunately, there's been a few, you know, your ProBuild and your ConDev, you know, they've fell over in the last few months. You know, we were lucky we didn't do a lot of work for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just weren't in the price bracket that they were looking for. You know, and I guess that's where we want to position ourselves. You know, as a reputable company that gives good quality, but you know, we obviously charge accordingly.
Accordingly, yeah. No, I like it, mate. In terms of, actually, that's probably a number of questions in that piece. Actually, in terms of like, if you're instilling within the team below you around the client relationship piece, like what are sort of the top 3 things that, you know, you talk a lot about in terms of developing good key client relationships?
Yeah, look, project management, you can break it down into three elements. So you've got your price, your quality of the work, and also the timing. So that's where we focus. You know, our direction for our project managers is it all comes back to quality. It's very hard to argue for a higher, you know, higher charge out rate or a higher fee if you just can't deliver on quality or timing. So you know, that's where we really focus in on, is those 2 areas, and just providing, you know, those 2 elements to a client will get you repeat work, and you know, and separate us from those lower charge out, you know, companies. So yep. I guess that's the main thing that we focus on.
Yeah, good. And in terms of increasing charge out rates and increasing the cost, like what sort of journey have you been on there? Is that sort of somewhere where you started low and work up? Like what's been the strategy there to kind of, and I do a lot of work with my clients around charging what you're worth and holding your ground and that sort of thing, because yeah. I think, you know, the last thing you all want to see is this race to the bottom that's just stripping profit out of everyone's businesses. Like that's just, it doesn't create a sustainable economy for anyone. So, you know, what have been the biggest decisions there at an executive level around charging what you're worth?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I heard this morning that the disparity between engineering and surveying companies and their profit on turnover versus architects, who are about 5% lower, and that was coming from a banking executive who's noticed that, you know, with his clients in both of those areas. So yeah, look, it's not easy having to have that conversation with the client and say, I understand you've got another quote and it's 10 or 15% cheaper, but you know, we can offer a lot more. It's never easy. And as a project manager, I guess you're measuring yourself on your ability to win. And, mm-hmm. You know, and there's always a temptation to, you know, that price is the reason. So, you know, we took a specific direction last year that we wouldn't do that. We would hold our ground.
Yep.
And you know, it's worked out well. We haven't lost any major clients, I'm happy to say. We've probably got clients that we didn't really prefer to work with. And so, you know, but it all comes back to, obviously, you know, ensuring quality and that timing. That's what it all comes back to. It's very hard to argue that you're charging at a higher rate if you can't deliver on that. So
exactly,
yeah, it takes courage, and look, it's not easy being that person who's having that conversation with the client. He's like, mate, I've got another quote and it's 15% cheaper.
Yeah,
you want the job or not? And the temptation is there. Yep, I'll do it.
Oh, we've all been there. And how do you find the convo goes if you do then sort of stand your ground and push back? Do you find that you lose a percentage, or most clients turn around and go, you've got a good reputation, we know you deliver, okay, fine?
Yeah, you lose a percentage, but again, it's probably that in that percentage is clients that you know, they're just after the lowest price. They don't have the relationship. They're just filling a number in a spreadsheet. They don't really value, you know, you know, what we bring in terms of our experience and our quality. So, but yeah, it's a leap of faith, that's for sure.
It is. Yeah, I talk to my coaching clients a lot about when you're in that space and exactly what you just said. I've got another quote that's 20% cheaper. What do you want to do? Like, it is super uncomfortable. And, you know, I talk to my clients a lot about, that's the time when the people pleasing traits will sort of come to the surface and you'll want to say yes just to avoid the difficult conversation. But that's really the time, I believe, to then sort of switch the conversation to actually of value, like the value that you can bring to the project, the value, you know, if they're an existing client, they know your track record. If they're a new client, well, then that's up to you to then, in that discussion, instead of, you know, getting all defensive and haggling over 5%, then you flip the conversation to, you know, what's the client outcome? How can you add value to their world? How can you get them the outcomes they want that, you know, I'll make down the road who's 10 or 15% less than you can't actually achieve? How have you found those conversations go when you sort of switch the convo from price to value?
Yeah, look, we've obviously done a lot of training, and Josh, you've helped us out in that area about how to have that conversation. So, you know, and how to really focus in on the value that you bring. So, look, as I said, it hasn't been easy, but you know, you've got to have it. It's if you want to get a good return on your investment, you know, in some cases a very large investment you've made in your business, then that's the way you've got to do it. And you're going to lose some, yeah, but you'll win a lot more than what you think, I guess.
I agree. It's a percentage game. Mate, to the next 5 years, like, what are you excited about doing in the next, you know, 5 years with the business?
Yeah, look, so the next 5 years is like I said, we spent a lot of time last year coming up with a strategy. And I guess on the back of that, we realised that we needed a more focused group, a more focused board to try and implement those growth targets that we had. We'll invite a non-exec in, someone from outside the business, just to give us a bit of perspective and, you know, keep us honest and a bit more, you know, knowledge and experience around that sort of growth. You know, we're great surveyors, but, you know, we don't really know what it's like to get from 130 to, you know, 200 or whatever.
Yep.
So, you know, I think that's important, just having that outside perspective to say, hang on, guys, you're pushing too hard here, or, you know.
Yep. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know, right?
You don't know. That's right. So yeah, look, that's exciting. You know, the partnership group agreeing that that's what we need, and, you know, that's only just formulated. It's only just formed in the last couple of months. So yeah, we're starting to push ahead with a few things. And like I said, there's a few things I'd love to announce now, but I just can't just yet.
All good. And so, yeah, obviously growth plans, cracking that 200 number, is that's something you're looking to achieve?
Yeah, look, that's the BHAG, the big hairy audition.
I like it.
And we had to anchor everything off that. That's what come first was, you know, this insane number that we want to get to.
Yep.
And try and, you know, work around that, and you know, look, I guess you just break it down by bit, and over the 5 years, you know, it's definitely achievable. So
yep, chip away. Mate, exciting.
Yeah,
keen to watch the journey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no doubt you'll be involved at some point too, Josh, to help us.
Looking forward to it, mate. Yeah, looking forward to it. So I guess, mate, final question. You know, obviously you are the sum total of all your experiences to date, some good, some bad, some amazing, some a bit ugly. Say you're getting the opportunity to sit down with a 10-year younger version of yourself for a beer or coffee. What advice or, you know, words of wisdom would you impart on the 10-year younger version of yourself who's, you know, obviously you've got the knowledge now. What would you tell them?
Look, I'd say, you know, you need to make a decision. They're not always going to be right. Only time will tell. But I guess based on the best information that you've got, you know, a decision has to be made one way or another, you know, on any topic. And I think that's what people look for in a leader is just make a decision. You know, everyone's looking up to you, and, you know, and that's the important thing, is that you need to be able to make a decision based on the best evidence that you've got, and I think that's important. The other one is probably, you know, be yourself. That's important. trying to be someone that you're not. I was probably guilty of that when I first moved into the role, was trying to be someone that I wasn't. I'm just a simple bloke. I'm not some business genius or anything like that. I am myself, and I guess accepting that is important, because people can sniff that pretty quickly if you're trying to be someone you're not.
Absolutely.
Whether that's whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or a motivator or whatever, you are what you are. And so just be yourself. There's good examples of great leaders who are introverts or extroverts or motivators. You don't have to be one to be a good leader. So I guess that's one thing I've learned. You communicate your message far more powerfully if you set the example. If you're leading by doing. If you go around and say, this is how I want invoices done from now on, and then you go and do something different, then you just lose complete credibility on the message you're trying to get out. So I think that's important. If you want change, you've got to set the example. I'd say to be a good leader, you need to be the one who raises the issues and has the uncomfortable conversations. These had a good saying, a safety saying, is you walk past the standard that you accept.
Yeah,
I think that's true. That's true for leadership as well. If you're in this role, you've got to be the one who's bringing up those uncomfortable things, and and it's not easy. I don't like confrontation as much as the next person, but that's just what I've got to do. So yeah, and I think the most important part is have some fun and create some energy. I think we spoke about one thing I'm guilty of, and that's probably that. So I need to work on that, having more fun. It's not all about nose to the grindstone. Celebrating some of the.
Yep.
So have more fun, and some of those other things that I spoke of.
Mate, thank you so much for agreeing to catch up. Where can people follow along the journey, both yours and obviously Bennett and Bennett?
Look, we've got our socials, so we've got LinkedIn, and we're constantly posting on that. So Instagram, Facebook's more about our cultural side of things, our people. But where the business is heading is probably more LinkedIn or our blogs. You can sign into our blogs through our website and get updates through there.
Mate, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for agreeing to catch up. I mean, here's the next 5 years, hey, mate. Sounds exciting.
No worries. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it, mate.
See you soon.